Hi there and welcome to another exciting episode of Behind the Business with myself, Steve Swift from Client Direction, and my good friend, John Childs. John, how's it going?
It's good, thanks, Steve. How's things with you?
Not too bad. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. I know we've skipped a week. We've obviously both had a lot on. So, it's great to be back here on the podcast and putting together some more content for the people that are looking to grow the business and not quite sure how to do it. Maybe they've got the wrong mindset and that's what's tripping them up in their journey to success. So it's good to be back here. And just as a quick recap for people that are watching this episode 5 of series 1, Behind the Business, we're going to title this one somewhere around the region of how to decide on your product based on historical data and tracking. And I know you've got a great analogy of this, John, which you're going to share with everybody in a moment or two. But I just wanted to explain that the reason why we're doing this about the product this week is it follows on nicely from last week's, which is finding your ideal client and the avatar exercise that I went through. So if you haven't seen that yet, go back to episode 4 and have a look. And it really does in sync very nicely with episode 3, where we're talking about how you handle the influx of those clients as well. So that's why we've done it in that path. So again, that's just a bit of a reminder as to what we've done on the previous episodes if you're just jumping on this one for your first introduction to myself and John for Behind the Business. So on today's topic, we're going to explain or try and help you understand why you might not be making as much money with your business or generating as many sales as what you think you should do, based on the products or services, because this will work in either type of industry, and how you can go about changing that, what you need to look at to fix that problem straight away. So this is something you're going to be able to use immediately after you finish watching this podcast, or if you're in the car or wherever and you listen to it on the iTunes, etc., then again, this is something you can apply straight away. So with regards to businesses that have multiple services or possibly multiple products, the first way of looking at it, business owners might go, well, I'm going to sell this service or this product based on the fact it's going to make them the most money. And now that's all exciting and all sounds wonderful if you've got something that's valued at 10, 20, 30, 40,000 pounds maybe. But the part where you come unstuck is when nobody wants that product that's at high ticket level. They might not be interested in what that service or product does. It might not answer the pain problem that they've got right now. It's not something they're looking for. It might be, would you really look to buy an umbrella when it's 40 degrees scorching sunlight outside because you're frightened of getting wet? Probably not, because it's very unlikely it's going to rain. You might want it, however, if you want to get in the shade, and that's a different technique that you need to look at when you're doing your messaging. What I'm on about here is the fact that you may have a service or a product that's a lower value, doesn't cost as much, but it's a more in-demand product. There's a bigger audience of people that are looking for that to solve their problem that they have, rather than the one you think they want based on how much money it's going to make you. It's like an old analogy which I had with a company I worked with previously, where they were trying to engage with clients to do a security solution for them. And they were all about, well, let's go and find the big fish out there, the massive construction industries out there, the huge house builders, etc. And that's all well and good because they'll do the bigger sites and they'll last for maybe 9-10 years. And they weren't really bothered on the companies that were only doing stuff for 6 months, 12 months, or maybe 48 months. But it was harder to land those people because there wasn't as many of them. So when they came in, it was great, and they weren't that busy, but they weren't making as much money as what they could do if they'd have gone for the slightly smaller fish and got more clients without becoming too busy. And obviously then you're looking at your administration, you're looking at the office staff, and you're looking at the workload that needs to be done with having more clients. So there is a balance that you need to find there. But I think you need to understand your marketplace to know which product you are best off putting out there. And John, I think you've got I know just before we went live on this, you shared something with me. And if I hand it over to you, I'll let you, go through the thing that you said to me, because it's brilliant. So floor's yours, mate.
Fantastic. Well, before I do that, and thanks for that, Steve, for that fantastic introduction. I hope it lives up to it. But you said something there which I think is quite important. You said that you were talking about the high ticket item and saying, look, you might have a smaller ticket item which would solve a problem which is easier to sell in. Now that's really interesting, because one of the things that you know about me, which our listeners probably don't, because I've not mentioned it before, is I used to be involved in marketing for fast-moving consumer goods, food, working with multiple retail supermarkets. And one of the differences between that sort of traditional product-based sale versus what would the sort of the online model of selling is the online model of sort of sales funnels tends to be high ticket item. If nobody will sell it, go for the second one, go for the third one, whatever, and go down the funnel. The difference between that and the sort of the traditional model is the traditional model works the other way. So you have a budget range, an everyday range, and then a best of range, right? And the idea and the aim of marketing within that sort of traditional setting is to educate people up through the ranges, so you actually increase the market spend. So the first bite of the cherry tends to be the cheaper offer, and then it moves through and gets more and more expensive, which is exactly the opposite to what we're talking about. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I think that's quite interesting.
It is, yeah, because
it's something that's not discussed, but it gives two different models for our listeners to think about.
Absolutely, because some of the times people, they'll look at it in a one dimension, or they'll look at it in one way. And over the 16 plus years I've been doing what I do, the amount of times, the easiest fix I've been able to do for company owners is do what I call the 180 rule. And basically they'll be looking, thinking this is the right way to do it. And all I literally do in the rawest of terms, there's a bit more to it than this, but in the rawest of terms is I literally flip what they're thinking 180 and reverse engineer it almost. Look at it from the polar opposite. And it's amazing how different so many scenarios that business owners are faced with look so different. And all of a sudden, the answers become very clear very easily. And they're like, how the heck didn't I see this before? Well, it's like walking, walking with a bag over your head and lots of noise around. You're so disoriented, you don't know where anything is, and you've not got your bearings. Yeah. You get rid of the sound, you start to understand it a bit, you remove the bag off your head, and you've got clarity. Flip it 180 and you get that, and that kind of fits in what you're just saying there as well.
Absolutely. And I think one question that's so important along the line, and this is going to allude to or relate to what the story I'm about to tell, but the one question that's really, really valuable whenever you're putting anything in place or whenever you're looking to do anything new is ask yourself or ask whoever, how do you know?
Yeah.
And if the answer is, well, best guess, or, well, that guy over there told me that I should be doing this. All right, well, how do you know he's right? How do you know?
Yeah.
Because the bottom line is, if you're taking advice from somebody and you don't know where they're coming from, so like when you advise people, they know your background. They know that you've got the credibility that's there.
That's right.
That's very different to going onto a forum or picking up a book from somebody who's just written a book, or and them saying this is the way to do it. You will make X amount of pounds if you do your adverts this way. How do you know? Show me your bank balance.
Yeah. I mean, you're quite right, John. I mean, there was, sorry to just jump in, but it's right on that point. I was actually listening to another podcast actually earlier on when I was in the car.
Terrible. Don't do that.
Terrible. I'm not even going to plug them.
There's no other podcast you need.
But the guy's done $25 million, in a very short space of time. And the thing that he was talking about was a lot of what he did was affiliate marketing. And he had like 4 categories for the different types of affiliate marketer there is. And it was quite interesting to hear what he had to say on it. And it's like what you're saying, it's the credibility. Some are newbies, but I've got morals and they're willing to put in the work to understand how to do this the right way for longevity. You've got the ones that understand it and know how to manipulate it and are out for a quick buck for as much as what they can. And then you've got the ones that really understand it really well, but they are very much in it for the long term and they're trying to get value out of it rather than devalue what the affiliate product is. Absolutely. And this guy says, I only deal with 2. Guess which one they are?
Yeah,
And again, it's the
absolutely.
same kind of analogy there. You know,
Yeah.
who do you know that knows this? Yeah, but how do you know they're any good at it? What's their track record? And I've had people where they say, well, can I speak to, you know, some of your past clients? A lot of my clients don't want people knowing that I've helped them, and that's fine, you know. But what I say is, well, that's okay. But what I'll do is, because I've been doing this for over 16 years, and the amount of clients I've helped, and the amount of people which I speak with on a weekly basis, you're going to have a lot of people ringing you, asking you what you thought of my services. Are you prepared to take time out with your day to speak to 10, 20, 30 people every week that have asked the same question you're asking me to validate how good I am?
Yeah.
My validation is I've been doing it 16 years and I've had client after client after client. I also validate it by saying I will share the risk. I'm accountable. So when you invest in my course and my services, I work with you until we meet that return on investment and the expectations we set right at the get-go. And if it takes longer, it's on my dime, so to speak, but it won't, because I want to help people get those wins quickly so they can see that's it. Yeah. And then, you know, we can progress. So I know we went off topic a little bit there, but I just wanted to put a little bit of meat on the bone there. But back to your analogy, I think.
But I think it was valuable. And so yeah, talking about products and particularly with the introduction that you gave there, it is entirely possible, and this alludes to what we were talking about in the last session. And if you haven't done so yet, one of the things that I did in our sort of week off, if you like, was I actually went back and listened to all our previous episodes, one after the other. You'll get so much value if you do that, because what you'll work out is where we've intertwined things and where we've revisited and built on things. And every week we're building a foundation. Now, we touched on, when we were talking about ideal client base, we touched on this idea of the echo chamber, and I talked a bit about how you can go get led down a garden path. Now, this also applies to your product. Okay, and the difference here is you can look at the basic idea is you find your ideal client, you work out what their problem is, and then you solve their problem. So the thing is, there is going to be multiple ways that you can help solve a problem. So you want to pick the right one. Is it going to be a course? Is it going to be a practical product? Is it going to be something they can buy that's going to alter their life in a certain way? Is it going to be, you know, whatever it might be, there's going to be an ideal solution for that. And the ideal solution will revolve around what's best for your client and what brings in what you need to earn.
Yeah, it's all about alignment, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There's a balance there, and you've got to get it right, because if you get it wrong, either your client isn't happy or your bank manager isn't. That's
exactly.
You know, bottom
and
line.
You don't want either of those.
No, and both of those death knell. So
yeah.
But what I want to demonstrate is that, or this story is, and I am getting to it, Steve, I promise.
I know you're really hamming this up, mate. It's worth the people listening and waiting for it.
So right. So basically, imagine a town, right? There's a guy in a town, and he lives on a street. He lives above a takeaway, and on this street there are 10 Chinese takeaways, and there's one Indian takeaway, right?
I'm sure you switched that around.
stick with this. Yeah, I think I probably have. So 10 Chinese is the other guy. I did this the other way around before we press play. So there's 10 Chinese takeaways, there's one Indian takeaway, and the guy thinks to himself, you know what this street needs? We need another Indian takeaway. We need some choice, right? And he thinks, fantastic, I'll hit the nail on the head. There's a definite niche here. So he asks a few of the people that live around his street, and they all say, yeah, you're absolutely right. The one thing that we've got is too many Chinese takeaways. We need some choice. We need another Indian takeaway. So he goes out, he says to his bank manager, I've done all of the research. Everyone I've asked says I'm absolutely right, and we need another Indian takeaway. Bank manager gives him his loan. He goes away, he opens up his Indian takeaway, no custom. And he can't understand it. Nobody he asked can understand it. But what he's forgotten is 2 streets away, there's 10 Indian takeaways and 2 Chinese takeaways, and there's a guy living on that street going, you know what we need? Another Chinese takeaway. Because what he's done is he's hit the echo chamber with his research. He's forgotten that there's a wider context. And this is your problem. Because if you don't widen your context, if you don't recognize that the first time you put together a questionnaire or some research, you're aiming too narrow, I can absolutely guarantee you're aiming too narrow. And you need to sit down and rewrite your strategy for your research. Because your first research is going to be based on what you do every day.
Yeah, totally.
And the problem that you're trying to solve and the solution that you're trying to use is based around what you're listening to every day. And that isn't necessarily indicative of everybody else and what's actually going on. So it's a silly story, but it does illustrate a point that actually that guy did his research and his research came back really well. In fact, it came back so well that he was able to start a business and get into an awful lot of debt.
Yeah.
He was able to convince somebody to help him start up the wrong business with the wrong product. Now, he's right. In that street, you may need more choice. But he's got the wrong idea of what the size of his market. He's got the wrong idea about what that choice should be. Because actually, there's no Italian restaurant in either of them streets.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you'd open an Italian restaurant, another story. Possibly, unless there's a street somewhere else in town, you know. So, as I say, Steve, it's a silly story. I've gabbled it out. I think I oversold it, but I think it makes what I think is a valid point. I think.
I agree. It does. It gets the point home that it's right to do your research. It's great if you're not financially able to do it yourself to go and ask for financial support, and it's great when those people go, "Yeah, I can see you've done your homework. Sounds good. Sign the dotted line." You know, I mean, you roll the clock back to 2006. I'm going somewhere with this. But 2006, you go to the bank and they would give anybody with a pulse the money they wanted. They would even sign the paperwork off for people that didn't have a pulse. That's how much they were giving money away. But the problem was, I've robbed that from somewhere else, actually. But the problem was, I'm not that funny. The problem was that they were destined to fail and they were putting these people in debt. So doing your research is one thing, but it's important. Now, we could have two different types of listeners to these podcasts. We can have people that's just starting out on the journey of being a business owner and full of all that fire that you get when you first start. And those that have been in the game now for a few years possibly, and they're doing well, but they're frustrated because they want to do better. Now, there's two ways you can actually do to go along with that story you just said about the Chinese and the Indian and the Italian type of restaurant business model is when you're doing your research, if you already have a business, let's talk to the business owners that are already active at the moment. If you already have a business, you must have had some way of collecting the data of everything that you've sold. Again, whether it be product-based or service-based, and all the different types that you have within your business offerings. So, because not every business tends to have one product. Take a landscape gardener. I know I've used this analogy on previous podcasts. A landscape gardener doesn't just have one service. They don't just trim hedges. They'll cut grasses. They'll weed. They'll replant. They might even do a bit of plumbing electrics with water features and things like that. They're not a one-dimension company. So, but some people might just want the lawns cutting. Some people might have artificial grass and they'll be really annoyed if you go and try and mow their £5,000 artificial grass because it just looks a little bit too long by your expert eye. You know, you've got to know your market, you know, and it's just, I say it with a bit of humor and a bit of tongue in cheek, but it's a proper analogy you have to think about is when you have your business and you've already got that data, that historical information, have a look at which particular product or service is getting the most traction. Which one are you selling the most of? Now, you can do one or two things there. You can either take that and push it really hard with your advertising campaigns and promote the hell out of it to get more brand new clients, like John was saying, in a different area. If you're really close knit with what you're doing as a service provider, can you cast your net that little bit wider radius wise to capture some more clients? If you're an online business, hey, the only thing you have to do is take the filters off any advertising you do and you can reach the world. It's as simple as that. Obviously, if you're distributing out and you're selling a product, then you might have to look about the P&P side of things, the dispatching, but that's another topic sort of thing. If you're a brand new bit, and then obviously you push that, you might even look at just increasing your price margin slightly. Test different prices to see, can I get away with adding another 10% on? And what happens if I take 10% off? What does it do with the amount of sales you get based on the amount of profit that you still make? Because you should have a healthy markup to begin with anyway. And I know there was a very big UK retailer which I used to work with, and they did this with a bed mattress. And I had a logistics company previously, one of the other companies I had, and we had warehouses all over the UK. And our warehouses got rammed full because this particular retailer slashed the price. I mean, it was ridiculous. I know how much they manufactured these mattresses for because I went to the manufacturing plant and they told us, because we delivered directly for this particular bed manufacturer as well as for the retailer. And the price they let it out at was really low, but the volume, we went from getting one wagon a week from this one manufacturer for this one retailer to getting about 7. It was ridiculous how much it increased, but they did it to test the market. Now, that was a quite extreme case. I'm not saying that people just slash your prices, but play around with it a little bit, and just see what it does for your numbers. I've done it for companies before where we've just had a 5-10% onto one of their best-selling products, and it's made them so much more money because they've not done anything different. They've just upped the price. But you tend to add something into it with regards to how it's presented as well. And we can talk about how you present something in a little bit more detail on another episode. Now, if you're a brand new business, then you've obviously not got the historical data. So the easiest way to do it is like what John said in his story, the people are saying that's around the area, oh, this is what we need, this is what we need. Ask questions, put polls out. You can do this on social media. You can set a question and then give various responses. What do you think about this name for this type of business that we're doing? What would you like most from these services, or which service would you find most valuable to you on a monthly basis if it's something that's a repeat order product, so to speak? And find out what people do and go with different age groups, different genders, different locations, different interests and hobbies that people have. You'll get different information, but do you know what you will get? You'll get more of an accurate understanding as to what the masses are looking for rather than just a small catalyst. And the catalyst is the one that John was mentioning in his story there about the different restaurants that were available on just 2 or 3 streets. You're getting a close-knit community response rather than a real good understanding as to what the market out there. And the market is bigger than just where you're based. It's huge. And if you don't take that into consideration, you're going to come unstuck. John?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think basically what we are talking around here is the idea that just because you have an issue or you are in a particular group doesn't mean that your ideal client is. The problem you're trying to solve, just because you've got a certain problem or a certain passion, doesn't mean that that's indicative of everybody else. It doesn't mean that that should be your product or the problem you're trying to solve. In fact, I would suggest that most of the time, the vast majority of people, their client base is not them. But when doing research, and this isn't just about business, this tends to be every area of life, we judge the people around us by ourselves. We use ourselves as a yardstick. It doesn't work, because even there's 2 people on this podcast, and even we are very different people. We've got different outlooks on life. We've got different issues in our own lives, different strengths, different weaknesses. Well, that's just 2 people, and we share enough, and there's enough overlap that we work together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we choose to do that. We don't have to. So
there's nothing else to do today. So,
but for the vast majority of people, I mean, when somebody opens a toy shop, for example, I know it's a silly example, right? So they don't say, I like these toys, therefore the rest of the world is going to like these toys, right? Because they might have a boy and they're selling toys for boys and girls.
Yeah.
You don't choose to just do the things that are relevant to you. You choose to solve a problem for the people that you have the ability to solve that problem for.
That you've just said there, though, John, with regards to the toy analogy, again,
Yeah.
it harks back to the point I was just making on the back of your story, which was the research side of things. Just a toy itself, the amount of research that goes into just one toy,
That's right.
the amount of product research, how it's built, what it does, and then they get all these test people in, usually kids, and they get to play with these toys till they rip them apart and destroy them, and there's, can this toy put up with this kid jumping up and down on them, a million times an hour, does it stand up to all these different, parameters?
Does it solve
before
the problem?
they put it out there? Yeah. So is it going to be robust enough? Are they using the right material? Does it have the nice look, the nice texture, the nice feel? Does it engage people in the right way? And that's just one toy. So, and that takes weeks and months, and sometimes even years to perfect. So if someone thinks they can just roll it out there and just, click the fingers and people will buy it, they're deluded slightly. And you need to really understand this and just spend that little bit of time. At the end of the day, you're a professional business owner. If you're not prepared to put in that little bit of time and effort to understand your products and your marketplace and what your client wants, you're going to struggle.
Well, the other thing as well is, particularly with informational businesses, people create products and they get attached to those products. Well, just because you like what you've done doesn't mean it resonates with an audience. You need to be testing.
Yeah.
Make sure it solves the problem in a way that the problem needs to be solved. And this harks back to what we were saying last time about, you may need to solve a problem in a certain way, but the audience needs to be moved through a process to get to that point.
Yeah.
So you
might need a variation of that particular product as well, John.
Yeah, exactly. So it's about not getting overly attached to your own point of view.
Yeah.
Pulling back and saying, right, what can I do to widen the context of this solution, of this research, so that I'm picking the right product?
Yeah.
Because for every solution, you may think for every problem rather, you may think you've got the ideal solution, but if your clients don't agree, they're not going to buy it.
No, and that's down to the targeting of your ideal client as well, because just to pick up on that point, you could be pushing the ideal solution just to the wrong people, though. And that's down to your targeting. That's down to the fact you haven't done the research that we shared in last week's episode, episode 4. You've not done that task. So that's why it's important. That's why we're doing it. As you said, we're intertwining these things. So it's taking everybody that's listening to these podcasts from number 1 right the way through on a journey in the right kind of order. And we don't do it just for the fun of it. We do it because we want to help people and share our expertise and knowledge through having walked the walk, taught the talk multiple times across multiple different niche businesses. You said yourself, the first time you mentioned to the people that listen to the podcast, you worked for major supermarkets, in the production of different products. I've done similar things myself, but I'm not the one that's dealing with the manufacturing. I'm the one that was dealing with the RH&D side of things and the distribution side of things. But if you're not delivering your ideal solution to your ideal client, then you're going to miss the mark. It's not that your product is wrong or your solution is wrong. It's not that the audience is wrong. You're just not aligned. And I mentioned about good alignment earlier on in this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking at the time here, Steve, we need to be setting some homework for our loyal listeners.
It's got to that time, yeah.
It has. We've certainly kicked this one around the field, I think. This
absolutely.
Week.
Hopefully, again, as we say on most of the podcasts, it's go back and have a listen to it, because there's so much information we try to cram into there or thereabouts 30 minutes. And sometimes you can get a little bit distracted and have a light bulb moment about one topic that we touch on and part of that topic, and you miss the other golden nuggets in there as well. So do go back and have another listen. And I'm sure, as John said, as he said, we've had a week off from it. He's listened to the other podcasts, and you learn so much. It helps us be able to deliver fresh, new content each time rather than duplicating other things. So I think for the homework this week, because we've obviously touched on the product side of things, is have a look at your business. have a look at your historical data for those that are in business and have been for a while, and look at the trends. Have a look at which products are doing the most business for you, and where does that sit to help your business financially. If you stripped every other product away, would your business survive with that one at the volume you're shifting and at the price point? If not, test different price points. Don't be afraid to test. You know, people seem to think they get this one mind, it's working, I don't change it, otherwise it's all going to fall apart. No, it won't. You might lose a few clients, but then you might increase by another 10. You know, you've got to test these things just softly. And for those that are new to business and they're just getting, you know, out there sort of thing, they're building that business up from the ground, you know, grassroots, then do the research, ask the questions to a multiple of audiences, males, females, different age groups, different locations, different backgrounds, different hobbies and interests, you know, really get a full flavor. But because you've targeted different people in all those different sections, you can look at the data from each one. And from there, you actually might find your ideal client as part of the avatar exercise, which I set before, where you go, wow, males aged 34 to 45 that are interested in golf, interested in rugby, interested in Chinese food, just to pull in John's story there. They don't like beer, but they like wine. You're getting to know them. You know, they've got 2 kids, been married for 15 years. They like going to, you know, hot countries when they're allowed to travel for holidays. You're getting to understand that person. So when you're presenting something, you can use the imagery that fits with them. So it might be a nice sunny day on a beach or on a golf course, you know, with a glass of wine or something. All of a sudden, they attract their attention because it's something they like, something they can relate to. And then the story, obviously the text body you're messaging, tells the story that needs to tell to bring them into your business, to then position you as the perfect solution to their hurtful problem. And they don't need to look anywhere else. You know, it is quite simple. Yes, there's a little bit more to it, and that's what I help businesses with. And I know John helps businesses on the other side of the process building side of things. And that's why we work well together doing this podcast. So do that for your homework, do your research, have a look at what's happening within your business historically, set those tasks to go and find that research and that data if you're new to business, and have a serious look down at it and see how that sits with what your business plan is and what your projection is and your expectations for your business. Till next week, when there'll be some more homework, no doubt, something else for you to test. But apply this in your business. You know, we joke quite a bit about different things, but if you don't take action, how the hell do you expect anything to change? It just won't. Exactly. There's no such thing as a free lunch in life. You need to go out there and you need to do the work, or you need to delegate it. I know I did a short video, and I might even share this in another episode, about how you can delegate and break the time up and get time back in your business by using just a 4 simple system. But we'll do about that in another episode. So use that as your homework for this week. Hope you've enjoyed the content that John and I have shared with you. Again, there about 30 minutes. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week for more useful content that you can apply to your business to have an immediate positive effect from behind the business. So until next week, have the best of days. I'm Steve Swift from Client Direction. John?
See you next week.
Bye-bye.